Stony Brook University. I want to start off with our objectives for this session. First, we're going to definitely identify how to read nice food labels, identify frozen fruits and vegetables that have the same nutrients as fruits and vegetables, Identify the difference between whole grain products and refined grain products. We'll identify percent lean versus percent fat content recommended for meat products. Identify what to look for on nutrient fact labels and condiments, and also identify some nice healthy snacks for you. So thanks for joining us for this presentation. We're gonna start off with the nutrition facts label. The one on the left is the classic common nutrition fact label. The one on the right, the new label, is one you see more and more often these days. The nutrition label, just a good guide for you when you're shopping for your foods. First thing you want to look for is your serving sizes, because when you're looking for a serving size, you're looking for what you're feeding your family. If you have 4 people, 5 people in your family, you want to buy the appropriate size. So this is always a good way to start by looking at the serving size. And you can see right here on the left, it says 2/3 of a cup, as well as on the right. But you see on the right, it's nice and bold, a little bit higher, a little bit easier to see. And this has 8 servings per container. Now, 8 servings, it's enough for 8 people, or if you want to do double servings, enough for 4 people, depending on what it is. If it's a nice vegetable, go for it. The nutrition labels always are set up for 2,000 calorie diets. So when you see certain things, which like into the label itself, you see percentages, that is a percentage of the 2,000 calorie diet. So when you're comparing your labels, look at calories per serving, look at serving sizes, look at how many servings are in the container. As you scroll down, you look at the fat. Now the fat, total grams is 8 grams, and you see the new label, that's in bold, just like the calories are in bold now. Easier to see a little bit. They took away the calories from fat, which I don't agree with, but because that is a good reference, just a quick reference, where you see on the left side, you have calories from fat. They took it away from the new label, but now it's just in percentages and in grams. They always had saturated and trans fats separate, because those are the fats you want to avoid, okay? Total fat is a good gauge of total fat in the serving, but then you have saturated fat and trans fat, which you definitely want to avoid. Continue down, on the new label, you'll see where on the left you have sugars, it just says 1 gram. On the right, the new label, it says total sugars. Total sugars says 12 grams, because this includes 10 grams of added sugar. That's not included on the left, but it was in there. It just wasn't identified to be in there. So this shows you sugars that are being added into your food that maybe necessarily don't occur naturally, okay? They also changed 2 of the nutrients. It always had calcium and iron, but we added recently vitamin D and the potassium. They've been finding that people in America, food standards, maybe different diets, have been deficient in these 2, so they've been adding those to the label now to help guide you a little bit better. Now, when you're in the supermarket, just like real estate, location, 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 okay? Super premium stuff, these are your shelves. So you figure if your shelf starts at the bottom and goes up to the top, sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's 4 or 5, depending. The super premium, the more high-priced gourmet items would be eye level or just above eye level, okay? Premium is kind of in the middle, and then mild price and value is on the bottom. Now, the food companies pay the retailers for these prime locations. They'll pay for center, they'll pay for center shelves, they'll pay for, even lower shelves, because when they have the kids in the baskets or the kids walking around, they want those sugary cereals just about their eye level, which is about 3 feet off the ground. These are based on adults between 5 and 6 feet. So they actually do have to, organize this, and they actually pay a high price to these markets to actually have their food put at a certain place. And they will come out with spotters and they will look. And it's all meant to, have us buy their products. There's also the bottom shelves is where you find some of their store brands or the generic brands, which are just as good as most of the name brands. The Cheerios that you get, if you can find the Oaties, same thing, basically. So, and those are usually placed on the lower levels. The end caps in these aisles also sometimes used to contain sale items or maybe some nice healthy items. Now they're tending to have more, snacks and lower quality items. Now, throughout the presentation, you'll see the Bullseye. This is our Bullseye. This was developed here by Josephine Conley. She is our director here in the dietetic department. She developed this. Now, I'm not going to get too far into it because we will go through it as we go through the discussion, but if you see right in the center, water. You always want to make sure that we drink a lot of water, we stay hydrated. Now, when you're talking about your bullseye, you look at the green section in the center, it's just like a traffic light. Green means go, thumbs up, go for it. The yellow section is kind of a little bit of caution, you know, okay. And then the red section is this, we call it the stop and think. Now, this is like, okay, do I need the deep fried battered vegetables? Maybe not, but so this is the food guide that you're going to see the bullseye throughout the presentation, and we will touch on it as we go. Okay, great. So we're going to start with produce. Now you see right there the green, fresh and frozen vegetables and fruits, okay? Now you want to buy in season and local produce. The fresher, it'll be fresher and they'll be cheaper also. I love this time of year when the Hudson Valley apples come in because they're generally like 70 to 80 cents a pound, whereas apples from Chile or, you know, Washington State are upwards of $2 and $3. So this time of year, you want to shop with, you know, buy your local produce, your local fruits, because they will be cheaper and they'll be fresher. And also it's better for the environment because it doesn't take much energy to get them here. You know what I mean? They just drive right down from Hudson Valley, no problem. They're not coming across the country on a train or in a plane or in a packing truck. Frozen fruits and vegetables are a good alternative if you have the storage space for it. They are flash freezed, so generally the nutrients are the same, the vitamins are the same. So there's no real difference to freezing and fresh, but it also is about preparation. When you do prepare these vegetables, you know, try and defrost them a little bit before you throw them in the steamer or in the microwave, because generally they'll cook a little better when they are slightly thawed. When you're looking at frozen or bagged vegetables, also check that label that we discussed earlier for added sugars, added salt, as well as added fat, okay? Frozen vegetables, frozen fruits, they generally sometimes do add some of this. They add some sauces, they add a little, you know, a little something just to sweeten everything up, but those are just added sugars, and you'll see that in the new label where it says added sugars. Dried fruits, if you're buying raisins or craisins or dried cherries, you gotta look also for the added sugars. Raisins are generally pretty good, but craisins and dried cherries generally do have added sugars. I guess when they dehydrate them, they lose their sweetness. So you definitely want to take a look at that when you're doing your dried fruits. With the produce too, when you're thinking about seasonal, think about this. In the fall, you have great pumpkins, apples, green beans, sweet potatoes, and broccoli. Okay, the sweet potatoes this time of year are amazing. Throw them in the oven, you can roast them up, you can chop them, you can mash them, you can do a lot of things with them. Winter, towards late fall into winter, you get Brussels sprouts, and you get kale, winter squash, grapefruit, and clementines. For the springtime, asparagus is in season. We also have strawberries and pineapples, those are always nice. And then summertime, throughout the summer, you'll find great cherries, watermelons, cantaloupe, eggplant, peaches, plums, tomatoes, zucchini, squash, and those also get harvested definitely into the fall, the squashes and the zucchinis. So those are always nice options for you too when you're shopping seasonal, because they will be more fresh and they will be a little less expensive in season. Now, here's a little activity for you. We discussed the food labels. Take a look at the one on the left, look at the one on the right. Now you start at the top. First thing you notice is the serving size, 3/4 of a cup, okay? And on the left side, the serving is a little bit smaller. I believe it is 2/3 of a cup. So the one on the right has a little bit more of a serving size than the one on the left. Coming down, first thing you notice is calories. What's the difference here? Now these are two products that are very similar from the same producer, okay, from the same brand. Now you see calories, 110 to 40. Something's going on here. Okay, let's come down a little bit further. Look at total fat. All right, 8 grams to 1 gram. All right, there's something going on. I don't know what it is yet, but we'll see. Oh my goodness, look at the sodium. 26% of your daily intake of sodium is in this one serving of the product on the left. 630 milligrams. On the right, 80 milligrams. Okay, keep going down. Get down to sugars. You have 3 grams of sugar on the left, 1 gram of sugar on the right. Now let's take a look at these products. Okay. On the left, you have a green bean casserole, okay? On the right, you have the green beans and almonds. Now the casserole is sauced, okay? The sauce on that looks like a butter sauce, I believe, but that's gonna add a lot of extra sodium, a lot of extra fat, the calories definitely from there, as well as some sugars. On the right, just something simple, plain, with some nice almonds, very similar product, and you can have a larger serving size, and you're getting less calories, you're getting just as much fiber, you're getting some great, actually the fiber is a little higher on the left, my apologies. But you're getting a lot less sugar, a lot less sodium, So you get a little more bang for your buck with the green beans and almonds. Melissa?
So now as we see on the Bullseye, we see the breads and pastas. So we want to gear towards the whole grain. So why would we want to eat whole grains versus the refined enriched grains? Because whole grains have fiber and protein, which keeps us fuller for longer. So a great rule of thumb, including high fiber, is having more than 3 grams of fiber and keeping as less than 5 grams low in sugars. So we also want to look out for artificial sugars, which could be hidden, and they could be as sucralose, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, rice syrup, sucralose, all these different hidden names of sugars that you may not be aware of. Good choices of whole grains examples can be brown rice, quinoa, steel-cut oats. And they're actually making more improvements on the market of pastas using lentils, black beans, and all these different types of pastas, which is a great improvement to these enriched pastas that have been on the market for years. And you get a better nutritional value from the whole grain pastas. Great ways to use these pastas is just tossing it with olive oil, salt, pepper, some basil, low-fat cheese, and it's an easy, nutritious meal. So in this diagram, it's actually showing the whole grain has bran, endosperm, and germ, but we see on the right side, the white grain is actually removing the bran and the germ, which is only leaving carbs and only leaving the carbohydrates, and that's the refined grains. So it's stripping it of that, it's stripping the bran and the germ from that, and the bran and the germ is what has all the fiber, the vitamin B, vitamin E, fats, and antioxidants. So when you're taking the white grain and you're stripping it of all these things, they normally reprocess it and put the vitamins and minerals back, but you're not getting the full benefit you can just by purchasing whole grain. So here we have 4 different bread labels. So during the creation of white bread, the white bread was strained from the nutrients, and it was just left with the carbs and some wheat proteins. Which is lacking that fiber, which is going to keep us fuller for longer. And so we see that we have honey wheat bread and multi-grain bread, but those are very similar actually to white breads, which have over 13 ingredients in them. But if we look at the 100% whole grain bread, they have a lot less ingredients because there's not as processed, because they don't have to put back the vitamins and minerals that they took out to refine it. And so this is a great advertising, like looking at advertisements and stuff. They did a really great job to promote whole wheat, but do we know what's in it? We have to always look at the labels to understand and to see that the honey wheat bread and the multi-grain breads are extremely similar to the classic white bread. So the best alternative would go for the 100% whole wheat, whole grain bread. And then cereals generally have a ton of added sugar, as previously discussed. Now that the new nutrition labels are out, it's easy to see that it has a lot of added sugars. So alternatives to cereals would be a great one would be oatmeal. So you can add your own honey or sweetness. You can add for protein nuts, nut butters, and you can even add fruit. You can add cinnamon. You can create your own without all these added sugars and still make it delicious. And then here is another example of Cheerios. And so the one that says Cheerios protein, you automatically want to purchase that one because you're like, oh, protein, I need to get that one. But you don't actually need the protein. But you don't realize that if you don't read the food labels that it has 15 more grams of sugar than the original Cheerios and twice the amount of sodium and calories. And it's only an additional 4 grams of protein. So this is definitely deceiving us. When we look at the food labels, we actually fully understand that the regular Cheerios and the original ones are a lot healthier and a better choice. We can also, instead of going towards the cereal route, we can also do plain Greek yogurt and have it mixed with all different like mixed nuts or with bananas and cinnamon, which is also a great alternative. And then lastly, another example, we have a Special K and a Kashi, and the Special K has 9 grams of added sugar for only 5 grams of protein, and the Kashi cereal has less sugar and more protein than the Special K. So when shopping, you really have to stay in the aisles and look at the different labels and really assess to see which one has more added sugars, which one is more protein, which one is the better option for you.
Okay, now we're on to protein. Now, protein often can be the most expensive thing you're going to put in your cart next to the produce. So you want to be, a little picky. You're looking at the Bullseye, see in the center there, these are some more price conscious proteins. The beans, the lentils, tofu, okay, we're getting up there a little bit, egg whites and fish, can be a little more expensive. But if you look in the yellow zone, you have chicken, you have turkey, you have your lean beef. These are all can be very expensive, lean veal, lean pork. So you got to be cautious when you're buying your proteins first and foremost, because they are going to be more expensive than generally some of the other stuff that's going to be in your cart. Beans and lentils are great because you can get them dried or canned. Dried, they stay on the shelf for almost indefinitely. I mean, I don't know how long, but they can stay on there for a pretty long time. When you're looking at white with chicken, you want to try and stick with white meat like chicken breast or turkey breast. The dark meats do have a little bit more fat content, and you also want to take the skin away if you can. If you can buy it with the skin on, that's fine. You can even cook it with the skin on, but then you remove the skin when you're eating it, and it makes it a little bit more healthy. When you are choosing your ground beef or ground turkey, you want to aim for 93% lean or above. Now, I go to the supermarket, I go shopping, my wife goes shopping, we kind of share those duties. I can only ever find 85, 90. Rarely do I find 95, rarely. But it's available, but you got to get there on the right day, I guess, or the right, early enough in the day. So, try and aim for 90 or above, because generally it's hard to find a 95, I find, in my local supermarket. But we do recommend 93 lean or above when you're doing ground turkey, ground beef. That's generally a nice rule of thumb. When you're looking at your beef and pork, you want to look at leaner cuts, chuck, round, rump or sirloin, or even tenderloin. Pork tenderloin, okay, is a leaner cut. Now, if you look in the red zone on the Bullseye, you have your cheeses, you have your hot dogs, sausages, luncheon meats, and fatty red meats. So these are also proteins, but these are I call them the sometimes food. You don't want to eat a hot dog every day, but it's nice to have a hot dog on a Sunday afternoon out in the backyard and you grill, and that's fine. But steer more towards the green zone and into the yellow zone when you're preparing your proteins. And you want to also be careful to inspect your packaging for expiration when it was packed. If you're at the supermarket on the 15th and it was packed on the 12th, pass. You want to try and find something that was packed that day or maybe just the day before. If you see any oxidation, that's going to be the meat turning a little gray or a little just an off color. You'll definitely notice, even with chicken, you'll notice that it starts to turn yellow at the ends and the tips. That means it's drying out. But with beef, with ground beef, you'll see like a graying. That's oxidation. That means it's been exposed to the air for too long. That means it's been sitting for a little while. Avoid that if you can. And if you are going to not be preparing it in the next day or two at home, you can throw it right in the freezer and then just take it out the day of and defrost it for that day. But definitely put it right into the freezer. Don't let it sit in the fridge for too long. So definitely expect your packaging, because it is expensive and you don't want to lose any of your proteins. Now, there are other alternatives. These are called meat analogs or meat alternatives. They have some great products on the market these days, but they can be high in sodium. So please check your labels for high in sodium products. There are some better quality products. There's a great black bean burger that my wife and I buy every now and then, but it's just a sometimes food. I would say it comes in the yellow zone because it does have a lot of added ingredients that we're probably not looking for, but it would come in about a yellow for us, and it's in the freezer whenever we need something in a pinch. But these can sometimes also be a little bit higher, very high in protein, so you got to kind of look at that when you're considering it, because the veggie burgers, they can also contain a lot of carbohydrates, so you got to watch for that. And I'm not a huge fan of tofu. I know some people that really are. I believe my wife will enjoy it when we go out to dinner at an Asian place. She'll get some of the tofu, because it's a great way to cook, and it will impart the sauces or the seasonings that you're cooking with, okay? And it is shelf stable, so if you do purchase it, it can sit on the shelf in your fridge for a little while. It doesn't necessarily need to be cooked that day. It can definitely sit for a little while, and there are a lot of alternatives, but like we always say, check your labels for anything that's added that you don't think should be in that product. Now, dairy. Dairy is always fun. In the green, you have some nice plain non-fat yogurt, skim milk, low-fat milk, and soy milks. Now, when you're purchasing dairy, try and aim for low fat or fat free. It took me 2 years to get down to a 1% milk because I weaned myself down from whole milk, which is generally 3.4%, 3.5% milk fat, down to 2% over about a year, and then I got myself down to 1%, and now I don't even notice the difference. So that was just for me, you know, but if you're looking for something on the more healthy, do low fat or fat free with the milks. There's also for when you're looking at plain and non-fat yogurts, check with your non-fat yogurts if you have fruit added or if they're, you know, if they're going to be done with vanilla or strawberry flavoring. Check for those added sugars again, because those added sugars sneak up on you because they take out the fat, but they add sugar back to give you the mouthfeel and the taste. So that's one thing that they always do with the yogurt. So I always try and just take a glance at it and see what the added sugars are. With the dairy also, you know, just always kind of remember to check your expiration date on everything. Even if you're buying yogurt, if you're buying sour creams or cremas, just check the expiration date before you leave with it, because a lot of times if you open it, they won't take, and you don't realize that it's bad, they won't take it back once the product is open. So double check those expiration dates. Now there's also some great milk alternatives, but they do have some pros and cons. Low in fat and calories, okay? They tend to be great, they tend to be lactose free, so you are, you know, if you have a lactose intolerance or an allergy to lactose, you're definitely okay with the milk alternatives. They're generally dairy and gluten-free, so if anyone has celiac or a gluten intolerance, they're good choices for them. Low in carbohydrates when you're purchasing the unsweetened versions, and just like milk, they're enriched with vitamin D. They also add calcium to these alternatives because calcium is naturally occurring in milk, not in these alternatives. The soy milk is also a very good source of protein. Okay, that's just naturally occurring in the soybean itself. The cons, though, the pros and cons now on the other side, you gotta look for those added sugars again, something sweetened. Some of the minerals that are in these are not absorbed as well because the cow's milk, you need a folinic acid, which is found in almonds, is not found in cow's milk, and that reduces the absorption of iron, zinc, and magnesium. Okay, so some of these micronutrients that your body needs might not get absorbed. The nut milks tend to be low in protein, as well as the sweetened ones may be very high in sugar. Now, if you look at these labels, you're going to see some highlights coming up. The one on the right, like she said earlier with the protein Cheerios, you would think, oh, this is great, protein soy milk, I need this in my life. 8 grams of protein, then you look at the 6 grams of sugar. So did we need that in our lives? Maybe not. The silk almond, the 80 calorie, 13 grams of sugar. That's a lot of sugar. If you go all the way to the left, 30 calorie silk almond, the silky smooth unsweetened, 0 grams of sugar. The one in the middle is sweetened and has vanilla, and then you have the protein. So they look the same, but they're definitely different. And if you see the 80 calories per serving, that's generally all sugar. That's all carbohydrate right there. So, you know, weigh your options. Obviously, if you can, stick with the one on the left, which has the less added sugar. It actually has 0 sugar, no naturally occurring sugar, than any of the sweetened ones or the protein ones, which also has sugar added.
So now we're going to discuss fats and oils. There are many different types of fats and oils, but when there's healthy fats and then there's fats, there's oils that you could cook with and you can cook with because there's a different temperature of high cooking fat oils and low cooking fat oils. So we're just going to discuss that. When you're purchasing fats, though, for food, you want to keep a rule in your head that you should be purchasing 3 grams of fat for every 100 calories. Generally, that's like the rule of thumb. However, when you're purchasing for healthy fats that are just to eat without cooking, there's examples of avocados, nut butters, and fatty fish like salmon. But we need to be careful with the nut butters because a lot of times they do add sugars. So you have to look on the food label again for added sugars. Examples of high fat cooking oils can be canola or olive oil or animal fats, which is not generally recommended because those are saturated fats. But we stick normally with canola and olive oil. And for salads and vinaigrettes, extra virgin olive oil is the best. But the reason why we can't cook with them is because it has a really low smoking point. So if you put it in the pan, and it's going to get hot really quickly and it's going to start to smoke and it's not going to be fun. So you don't want to do that. But you can use that for dressing and dressings and salads, and that's great. be aware that when we're adding oil, it seems like it's so little, but really if you add a lot of oil, you have to remember that 1 teaspoon of oil contains 45 calories, which eventually it does add up. So we need to be aware of that and make sure that if you're adding 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, that you're aware of how many calories are going into that. And then peanut butter, which is hard to gauge. Like normally you're going to gravitate to the natural peanut butter, but it's not always, just because it says natural doesn't mean it's always the best. A lot of people think that, but it doesn't mean it's always the best. So again, we have to look at our food labels, and we see here that the creamy peanut butter is 150 milligrams of sodium more than the natural, which is 80. But we have to look at the natural sugars. The natural peanut butter has 2 grams of added sugar, and the creamy has 3 grams of sugar, but the natural peanut butter has a total of 4 grams of sugar. So we just have to be aware that we have to weigh the pros and cons of like each peanut butter and see which one would be the better alternative. And we also have to look for at the fat content as well is also really important. And then we have canned goods, which are a great source, and it's a cheaper source, and you can always keep them in your shelves, in your pantry, so you can buy them in bulk and keep them stored so you always have something. It's great to make soups, quick side dishes, lunch, dinners. You can always just throw in a can of chickpeas into your salad if you're running out the door, something like that. We need to look out to make sure that these products are low sodium though, because a lot of times when they process things, they add a lot of sodium and preservatives. So we want to make sure that the can that you're purchasing is a low sodium. Great things to purchase is canned fruit, but we want to make sure that it's not in syrup, that it's in water. And also fish is the same idea. We want to make sure that it's packed with water or olive oil, and always low sodium is the best option. And when you're buying a can of soup, you want to try and get the option with the most vegetables, and if you can add a whole grain to it, that would be even better. So if it's on the fly and it's on the run, you always want to have on your shelves and in your house just a can of with a ton of vegetables, and then you can make a whole grain like quinoa or something to add to it, and it comes together pretty quickly. So frozen and ready-made meals, we do not we know that people get busy and there's time crunches, so sometimes you have to purchase it or you enjoy it, but we want to make sure that you're looking at the food labels and you're picking one that has more whole grains included and more vegetables. And if it doesn't have that many vegetables, where can you add in a vegetable? Can you eat a fruit with it, like an apple or something like that? So they are super convenient, so we get that people do use them in a time where they need to, but so this is how we're going to look to make sure that you're looking at the sodium content and you're looking at the serving sizes, which is also extremely important. And to avoid using these would be great to implement food prep on Sundays, so that way you don't have to purchase these, and you can store them in Tupperwares, and you can even pre-make foods and you can freeze them, which is also a great alternative to having these. But now we're just going to take a quick example. So we have the Hungry Man and we have the Luvo, which are 2 different pre-made packages. So we see that the Luvo has 260 calories. The total fat is 6 grams. The sodium is 490 milligrams, and the sugars is 8 grams, and the protein is 23 grams. And then if we look at the Hungry Man one, we have calories of 650, total fat is 32, and then the sodium is 1,450 milligrams, and the sugars is 23 grams, and the protein is 22 grams. But one thing we didn't look at is the serving size. So how big is the serving size? So the one in the Luvo is actually 283, which is a lot less. So yes, it makes sense, and the Hungry Man is 454 grams. So yes, it is a larger serving size, but we have to keep in mind that we want to include fruits and vegetables. So if we choose the Luvo, which is the better alternative in this situation, we can add some vegetables, we can add an apple, we can add an orange, which would be a great alternative. So yes, it is a smaller serving size, but you're going to include healthier produce and whole grains and everything, yeah, that you should have.
So now condiments and seasonings. Now think of a condiment as a complement. Okay, it's not a necessity. Sauces and salt and pepper and all this stuff isn't necessary, especially the salt. But it is nice to have a little something on your food, and I get that. But if you're looking at sauces, especially tomato-based barbecue sauces, ketchups, they're going to have a lot of added sugar. They add sugar to marinara, to the Prego sauces that are on the shelf, packed with sugar, packed. I mean, my Italian stepmother used to add sugar to her sauce, but she would add one little spoon of sugar for a pot this big, So I get it, but those sauces have a lot of sugar added to them, the duck sauces. So you want to be cognizant of that. With mustards and pickles and steak sauces, these, again, are going to be high in sodium. Now, there's also the salad dressings. You got to think of these as your creamy salad dressings, your Thousand Islands, grated cheeses, cheese dips, the jarred cheese whizzes. Those are going to have they're going to be very high in saturated fats. A couple things you can do if you want to use a condiment, put it on the side. It's nice to have a little dip every now and then, but you're not drowning your food in a condiment that maybe you only need a couple little drops to dip in. But if you put it over the top, you're generally going to eat it all. So I tend to put my condiments on the side, and every second or third bite, I'll have a little dip of my condiment. And that just generally helps me gauge on how much I'm eating also. Because again, you should want to taste your food. Some of these condiments can kind of mask the taste of the food. And, prepared correctly, I don't think, things need as much condiments and seasoning as we do tend to put on them, especially the salt. I don't generally touch a salt and pepper shaker. Seasoned food shouldn't need salt and pepper, but that's to each their own. But just be cognizant of how much salt you're putting onto your food. Now there's next slide. There's some nice examples here. If you look, the Tostitos dipsters, okay, 2 tablespoons, about the size of a golf ball, contains a full gram of saturated fat. Your ketchup right there, that is 1 teaspoon. Okay, a teaspoon is not a lot. On my burger, I'll probably put, I don't know, 3 or 4 teaspoons, but it has 4 grams of sugar per teaspoon. Okay, now the A1 sauce is going to be high. The one tablespoon is a serving. It's going to be very high in sodium. So 1 tablespoon of A1 sauce is not a lot of sauce, but if you were to put that 1 tablespoon on the side and just have a little dip every now and then, you might find that you're not even going to be using the whole thing. But if you were to turn the bottle over onto your steak, you're going to put a lot more down. And just as a sidebar, the Hidden Valley Ranch, everyone knows Hidden Valley Ranch. I love it for my French fries, a little dunk here and there. Hidden Valley Ranch, 2 tablespoons is a serving, 14 grams of fat, 2 grams of saturated fat. So if you're looking at like a ranch for your salad, maybe think of doing something like a vinaigrette without the added sugars, or just at home, if you have the olive oil and you have the vinegar, there you go. You have a perfect vinaigrette for your salad. Now snacks. Snacks are always fun. Snacks can be tricky. You want to look towards nuts, sugar-free raisins. Again, I mentioned earlier about the dried fruits that have added sugars. Low-fat cheeses, nut butters with fruit, vegetables, hummus, guacamole is always a good option. They do make some nice guacamoles in the stores that are prepackaged. If you can't take the time to make your own, which is actually very simple. My wife does it all the time. She puts that on her cheeseburgers. I'm not a big guacamole fan, but people do enjoy that. The thing too with nuts and raisins, be careful if you're doing like trail mixes. Trail mixes that have these nuts and granola and stuff already added. Trail mixes should not have candy. I repeat, should not have candy. No Raisinets, no Skittles, no M&Ms. I hate when I see trail mixes and it's like advertising all this great stuff and then there's M&Ms in there. When you're looking for your chips, you want to try and find Air Popped or the baked brands. Lay's makes some great baked chips. I mean, it's a nice, healthier option when you want to have that chip fix, but also read your serving sizes and try to stick to the serving sizes. When you're doing popcorn, try and stick to plain popcorns. You don't want to have stuff drowned in different flavors and stuff like that, because you're going to be adding different preservatives maybe and different amounts of sodium to those. Yogurt is always a great snack. Low-fat yogurt, you can add some fruit or granola or both. A little handful of blueberries, a little handful of granola, you have a great snack. You could do just fruit. You know, I had my snack today was an apple, and I enjoyed it quite much. Low-fat snacks, sometimes if you see that on the package, can be deceiving. Always be cognizant of looking for those added sugars because they take the fat out. Like I said earlier with the yogurts, they tend to add sugar back in lieu of the fat.
So items to avoid when you're going shopping, this is a very big one. Just try not to even go into the candy aisle and then it's easy, you know? The reason why we don't want to gravitate towards the candy because it literally has no nutritional value. The candy is literally caloric dense and they're high in sugars. And actually eating a high consumption of these candies and even processed meats will lead to developmental of a chronic disease. So you can get a heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and so we want to try and avoid these at all costs. Sugars and sodas, if you do drink sweetened beverages, try and limit it. Maybe only purchase like so that you only drink one a day or something like that. So limit how much you're buying, and instead of buying a case of sodas, buy a case of canned goods, which will be better for you. And then lastly, we're going to talk about coupons. Stores give out coupons, take advantage of it. When they have a sign that says buy 2 for $5, that doesn't mean you have to buy 2. You could just buy 1 and it's still $2.50 and you're still getting the sale price, which is great. Becoming members of certain places, also they provide discounts. If you go to Costco, you get a membership that you're paying for, but they have sales, they have discounts, you buy in large bulk, which is also sometimes beneficial, and it's always in your house. If you run out of something, then you buy it in a big bulk, so you know that you won't run out of it for a couple of months, which is great. And then we're going to talk about some tips and tricks to help you. So creating a grocery list can be overwhelming. So over time, when you're using things, you can have an app, which there's 2 options. You can have Out of Milk, or you can buy, download Master, which is an app where it helps you create a list. And these apps are free. And as you realize you're missing an ingredient, you just put it on your list. And then when you go shopping, maybe you go shopping every other week, maybe you go shopping twice a month, maybe you go shopping once a month, you're able to just look at your list and you know exactly what you need. And when you're in the grocery store, first, you never want to go hungry because then you're just going to buy everything, which is never a good idea. So you stick to your grocery list. You're full already when you walk into the grocery store. You have a list, you go with a plan, you know exactly what you're buying, and you try not to deviate from that list because then you run into issues where you're buying things that are unnecessary. Other things that we want to do, again, I'm just going to reiterate, you always want to look at the nutrition labels, look at the difference between the products, see it, look at the serving sizes, look for sodium, look for fat, look for sugars, added sugars are very important to look for. And you always want to stock your house with anything that you need. So you can always purchase more non-perishable foods like frozen vegetables, beans and legumes, and frozen fruits that are in water, not in sugar, so that way it's always on hand and you always have something in the house. And then when you go shopping, you can buy in bulk, which is sometimes it's cheaper that way to do that. So now we're gonna have a post-webinar poll, which is the same poll that we did previously to see how much you guys learned.
Let's see if you paid attention.
Here.
We will be sticking around for the next 15 minutes to answer any questions you might have. If you want to unmute yourself after you take the poll and ask a question, that'd be great. Or you could just post it into the chat. We're going to open up the chat box so we have it on our end so we can see if anybody has any questions. Maybe we'll just go to the video screen now.
Oh, here, chat. Oh, there was. I'll just say this opening.
Gabriella, you're still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. Did you have any questions, Gabriella?
No, I think it was great. I didn't know that about cooking with extra virgin olive oil. So that was something I learned.
Yeah, oils go like somewhere between like 280 and 360, 380, and the super hydrogenated vegetable oils can smoke point up at like 260, 270. Those are the ones you see in the French fryers at McDonald's and Burger King. Olive oil probably gets up about 290 and then it starts to break down. So you can still do a good saute, but if it stays in the high heat for too long, it will eventually start to smoke out, and then it'll affect the cooking, and it'll also affect the taste of the vegetables or whatever you're sauteing. Yeah, I can't, even on my stove, I can't get it to go that high though. But you're talking about someone who has, if they have the gas at home, they could definitely get the olive oil to smoke up too high. My stove, I don't know, I did induction. It doesn't seem to ever do that. So I guess I'm pretty lucky because I haven't burned much olive oil lately.
Yeah, I've definitely burned olive oil. So now I know not to.
You have a gas stove?
Yeah.
That's why, yeah, the gas stove, you can get a very high heat. Yeah, unlike what I can get. That's why in the restaurants too, you'll see them, they'll cook with extra virgin olive oil, but you always see there's always constant movement. If you leave it on the stove, she knows, she went to culinary school.
Generally, if they're using extra virgin, it will be like really quick sear and then take it off. Like you can't leave that on for like a long amount of time, but that's extra virgin. If you get olive oil, you can leave it on for a little bit longer, but obviously canola oil, what you could leave on for a lot longer. But.
Hey, Linda's got a question for us about high calorie, healthy snacks. I would say go with nuts, definitely. And you're also going to get, because you're going to get some good fats. The PUFAs and the MUFAs, those are your polyunsaturated and your monounsaturated fatty acids. So nuts, a handful of nuts is a very nice high calorie, healthy snack. When I was traveling back and forth to the city a lot, I always had a can of nuts in my car because if I got hungry, stuck in traffic, next thing I know, I'm sitting there for 2 hours. I didn't have anything, a handful of nuts, and kept the headache away, kept me somewhat full to get myself home.
Even do peanut butters or any nut butters, as long as you're just looking at the nutrition label. Again, like we said, added sugars, look for saturated fats and all that, and sodium. Those are great, healthy, high snacks, healthy calorie snacks.
And Fran said high heat olive oil. Is that a product on the market, Fran? I don't know if I saw that. Cool. All right, well, that was a quick response. Thank you, Fran.
Is there a random extra virgin olive oil is better than another?
I guess Fran said the high heat.
Yeah. I don't know if there's an extra virgin olive oil. Honestly, I don't know.
I think it also, when it comes to brand, it's brand loyalty and region, because a Spanish olive oil is going to be a little different than Italian olive oil. That's about flavor and darkness of color. Generally, olive oil is olive oil. It's going to have the same chemical makeup. So brand to brand, it's probably going to have about the same amount of nutrients and stuff like that. It's not going to change that much, but it will change flavor-wise because it's different region. It's just like growing a Merlot grape in France and a Merlot grape in California. They're going to be the same grape, but they're going to have different taste and texture. So you might change that way. But my house, we use Spanish olive oil that my wife buys. That's what I prefer.
Do as they're there longer in the vineyards and the extra virgin olive oils, they do have a different taste. So if you're eating it in a salad dressing, you might want to get a mild one if you don't like the taste. Because I personally don't love the strength of super high extra virgin olive oil. So I get a lighter version of it, which is it's a lot lighter, but it's good in my opinion. We have another question. Are they're labeled as high heat for frying?
Thanks, Fran. And thanks for wishing us luck in our future endeavors.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. They're labeled as high heat for frying, high smoke is carcinogenic. Yep. Any other questions?
Can we get a copy of the Bullseye?
The Bullseye. Yeah. I mean, is that, let's check the last page. Is that one of the resources that are on there?
Let me see. Okay.
So I think the Bullseye is on one of the beginning slides, and the recording of the webinar and the slide deck will be made available on our YouTube page and our website, which is listed here. I can send the YouTube page in a moment in the chat. But if you want a copy of the Bullseyes as well, that's like outside of the slide deck, you can email the program and I could email you a copy if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good guide, the Bullseye. You know, like I said, the red is the stop and think. That's what Melissa's doing. She said the stop and think. I like the way she put that, and that's how Josephine put it. Because I eat in the red sometimes, but I call them, for me, it's sometimes foods. I'm not going to eat in the red every day, but I do get to enjoy some stuff in the red from time to time.
Yeah, it's a balance also. Like if you're gonna mainly focus on eating the green, but if you're once in a while having a red, like it's balance. Like don't have the red every single day type of thing. What type of oil do you use for frying? I personally do not fry food. There's great alternatives. There's an air fryer if you have one. If not, the oven works great as well. Roasting, broiling, that kind of thing. So I personally do not fry, so I don't know. But generally they use canola oil for frying.
Corn oil.
Yeah, corn oil.
There's so much corn. We have so much corn in this country, so they have corn oil has a very high smoke point the way it is, but then they also hydrate. They do some chemical work to it and get it to a higher smoke point. So it would be corn or canola, yeah.
I think they use soybean also sometimes, but if there's no allergy.
Yeah, also going back to that question about brands of extra virgin olive oil, I just did a little research. There's no like better brand. It just depends, as the dietetic intern said, just depends on the flavor. But one thing to note is that if it says light on the olive oil, that doesn't refer to like light calories or that it's any healthier. It just refers to the flavor. So yeah, always check the back food label.
Some stores, Stop and Shop, I mean, I guess since COVID, it's been a little different, but Stop and Shop by me had the olive oil bar where it was like 6 different choices and they used to have a little spoon there and you can kind of taste to see which one you would like. I think they probably have put a stop to that since COVID, but eventually once we get post-COVID, you know, they'll have in some of the supermarkets this little place where you can fill your own bottle, which is nice because you're recycling the bottle. You can bring it with you and refill it. And also you can take a little taste and see which one you like for cooking and which one maybe you like just for making a salad dressing or something like that too. But some stores do that now, but I don't think I didn't notice it last time I was in the Stop and Shop because of COVID. Maybe I was just focused on what I was getting, but I don't think they have it available right now.
Yeah, and I also put the link to our YouTube channel in the chat box. All of our previous webinars are posted there, and this one, along with future programs, will also, recordings and the PDF files are posted there as well as our website. So yeah, are there any other questions? All right, well then I guess this is the end of the webinar. If you have any more health related questions or questions about nutrition, you can email the program at healthy_libraries_program@stonybrookmedicine.edu. We also want to thank our public library partners for, you know, allowing us to work with them to get all of these great programs and resources to you. You can find more information about us on our website at publichealth.stonybrookmedicine.edu/healthy_libraries_program. And also all of our events are usually are on the websites of our 4 main public library partners, the Brentwood Public Library, Huntington, Maine and Station, Longwood Public Library, and the Patchogue-Medford Public Library. I'm pretty sure all of our events for this fall semester are already posted in the newsletter and on the events calendar. So you can also find information about us there.
Thanks, everybody. Support your local library. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.